Hello, and you're very welcome to this episode of the Farming Week, the podcast from Agriland that keeps you up to date with all the latest in Irish agriculture. I'm Francess McDonnell, and joining me today is my colleagues Aisling O'Brien and Breifne O'Brien. Now, all the evidence points to a continuing strong demand for Irish beef in all of our key markets. Traditionally, Irish beef has been closely linked with GB beef prices, and currently there's a good, strong market there. On top of that, we also know that live exports of Irish cattle have been strong to date this year. But this week, Agriland's technical beef specialist, Breifne O'Brien, reported a drop in peak beef price offers. And Breifne joins me now. Breifne, what exactly is happening here?
Yeah, Francis. So this week's factory quotes for beef cattle have seen up to 30 cent per kilo taken off the peak beef price offers from a fortnight ago when beef prices had peaked. So some outlets that were quoting a base price of $7.80 per kilo for steers or bullocks in the week commencing Monday, April 7th, are back to $7.50 per kilo on the grid for steers for this week, which is a fall of 30 cent per kilo in 2 weeks. So last week, this week, and the first week of May, which is in 2 weeks' time, see almost all factories operate 4-day kills as a result of Good Friday, Easter Monday, and the May Bank holiday, respectively. So this obviously reduces the number of cattle which are required to fill out weekly kill sheets for 3 out of these 4 consecutive weeks. Now, weekly factory cattle supply numbers have been ahead of expected for the first quarter of this year, but a drop-off in supplies is expected to materialise, with many factory agents expecting cattle supplies to tighten significantly from May onwards.
And we also saw a warning this week, Breifne, from the Irish Farmers Association. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, that's also right, Francis. So while factory representatives are telling beef farmers that beef prices paid have to come back, the Irish Farmers Association has said that attempts by factories to lower beef prices are at odds with the reality of markets. So the IFA Livestock Committee Chair Declan Hanrahan has said that attempts by factories to lower beef prices is unjustified and unacceptable. He said that demand for beef is extremely strong in all our key markets, with beef prices in the UK rising a further 7 pence per kilo in the past week, bringing the R4 steer price to the equivalent of $8.64 per kilo. Declan Hanrahan said that UK markets remains the most important for our beef and is setting the trend on beef prices. He highlighted that supplies of beef cattle will be extremely tight for the remainder of the year, with Board BIA predicting a reduction of 87,000 cattle for this year. Hanrahan also highlighted that throughput is already up by almost 25,000 head, which leaves 110,000 less cattle available for factories for the remainder of the year before the buoyant live export trade for store cattle is factored in. So while prices are currently in decline, they are still in a positive position compared to other years, and of course beef farmers will be hoping prices stabilise and remain in a good position.
Thanks, Breifne. And sticking with beef, I'm just going to bring Aisling in here now, because this week, Aisling, we got confirmation from the Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine about a scheme that Agriland readers already knew about, thanks to Breifne.
Yeah, absolutely. This may sound like a bit of deja vu from Breifne's reporting last week on Agriland, where he released details of the Suckler scheme. But as you said, we got confirmation this week from Minister Martin Hayden about the specifics of this new €28 million scheme for Suckler farmers. So the budget has been increased by 40% this year, and the cap on eligible calves has been lifted from 40 to 45. So the maximum payment that a farmer can receive will now increase from €2,000 to €3,375 for correctly completing 3 scheme actions. Now that's an increase of 69% in the total maximum payable under the scheme. So eligible calves include those born to eligible suckler cows in the period from July 1st of 2024 to June 30th of 2025. And the scheme is going to open in early August, as it did in previous years. And the Minister said he just wanted to get the details out there so that farmers could prepare and be aware of, what animals they may have eligibility for under this scheme. Now, there is 3 measures, as I said, aimed at improving on-farm efficiency. So they are as follows. Meal feeding, pre-weaning and post-weaning is a mandatory action, and that'll be paid at €35 a weanling. Vaccination is an optional action which participants or their advisors must select at the application stage. That'll be paid at a rate of €15 per weanling. And fecal egg testing or silage testing are optional actions as well, which must be selected to at the application stage. That'll be paid at a rate of €25 a weanling. So when coupled with SCEP, which of course is the Suckler Carbon Efficiency Programme, participants in the 2025 Beef Welfare Scheme will be eligible to receive €225 per cow-calf pair for the first 22 pairs. Now, full details and terms and conditions of this scheme will be available on the Department of Agriculture website closer to the scheme opening date in August, but that seems to be the headlines at the moment from the Beef Welfare Scheme. And look, it'll be hopefully well taken up by farmers out there as well, Frances.
And just while we're chatting about schemes, farmers need to bear in mind that next month there'll be some very important deadlines that they need to meet.
Yeah, it's a very, very busy time on farm at the moment, Frances. And look, it is worthwhile sitting down and having a look, maybe, for a few hours in the evening, if you have them to spare, to look at the schemes that are available at the moment, maybe some that you may not have availed of previously. And then, of course, there are many that you will have availed of. The 15th of May is a very big date in the diary when it comes to schemes over the next couple of weeks. I suppose kicking off with the nitrates derogation for farmers who are seeking a derogation this year. They need to be aware that the deadline for submitting their application is May 15th. It's the same date for the dairy cow band that must be confirmed for 2025 through the ICBF, the Irish Cattle Breeding Federation's website. The Common Agricultural Policy CAP Strategic Plan, that is the CSP Dairy Beef Welfare Scheme, and this year's Dairy Beef Weighing Scheme also have closing dates of May 15th for applications, as does this year's National Sheep Welfare Scheme. But just to note, the Sheep Improvement Scheme, which is designed to enhance animal health and welfare in the sheep industry and offers a payment of €12 a ewe, it's currently open to new entrants, and first-time applicants have to apply before April 29th. So that is coming up a little bit sooner. But back to May 15th, Frances, and the big one, I suppose, for all of the farmers out there, the closing date for the Basic Income Support for Sustainability Scheme, of course, the BIS, which replaced the BPS, or the Direct Payment, many farmers would call it as well. And that closes, as I said, on May 15th. And there are other area-based schemes as well. You'll have the eco schemes there, the area of natural constraints, the complementary income support for young farmers, protein aid, the National Reserve. If you're transferring entitlements, that's the date you need to be aware of as well. There's also payment claims under the Strong Corporation Measure, Acres, Organic Farming Scheme, the Multi-Species Sward Measure, and the Red Clover Silage Measure as well. So look, it is a very busy time of the year, as I said, out there in farms, but this is very, very important to get these scheme applications in on time and get them right. And a department spokesperson told Agriland this week that as of Wednesday morning, just shy of 64,000 applications had been received for BIS and other area-based schemes by the department. That means that there was an additional 12,600 applications submitted in the past week alone. And just to put a bit of perspective on it, last year there was over 124,000 BIS and other area-based scheme applications submitted to the department. So we're in or around halfway there, but I suppose like us all, it's always last minute sometimes for people. I'm very guilty of that myself. So I would imagine we're going to see those figures spike now over the coming weeks as that May 15th deadline approaches. But that it really is a big date for everybody's calendar at the moment.
Yeah, and some of the feedback that we constantly hear about these schemes is that it takes a huge amount of time to submit the applications. And we know that's not just an issue for Irish farmers, don't we, Aisling? And Agriland has been covering some of the ongoing debate about possible CAP simplification measures.
Yeah, so we've heard this from the very top in Europe, Frances, about this need to reduce red tape and the burden on farmers, the administrative burden, and allow them to farm and do what they do best rather than to be tangled up with paperwork and red tape. And we have seen the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen saying this, and also the EU Commissioner for Agriculture Christoph Hansen saying that they were going to work to simplify the common agricultural policy. And this week we reported on Agriland about a leaked internal European Commission document which we had seen, which listed out measures that are going to be considered as part of a simplification package for CAP. Now, I suppose we have to note which measures are actually going to form part of the final simplification package remains to be seen, and I'm sure will be subject to much debate. But among the measures, and something that is very topical currently here in Ireland, is that controversial Good Agricultural and Environmental Condition 2, which of course GAEC 2, all concerned with the protection of carbon-rich soils, including peatlands and wetlands. So this document recommends to allow possible payments for the practices considered currently baseline under GAEC 2. Now, the document, we understand, was drawn up by the Commission's Directorate General of Agriculture, that's DG Agri, and it states that due to GAEC 2's sensitivity, level of contribution to greenhouse gas emissions, aspects of stability and timing of implementation, a careful consideration is needed in relation to possible changes. And they said following requests, Agri prepared a list of options, including their pros and cons, and recommending, if need be, to allow possible payments for the practices currently considered as baseline. So that is very interesting for farmers out there. I know there's a lot of worry at the moment about GAEC 2 and what that might mean on the ground. And there are other possible simplification measures outlined in this document. You can read more about them on our website and app. But one that is very interesting as well is a measure to allow member states to ensure that a farmer is not subject to an on-the-spot control for CAP interventions more than once in a calendar year. But the document does warn that this proposed change risks weakening the governance systems, in particular deterrent effect of controls. So it seems that there's some sort of simplification maybe there and a lessening of red tape, but we'll have to see. Now, there has been some reaction to the measures that have been outlined. Midlands Northwest MEP Kieran Malooly said that the measures outlined in this document are a step in the right direction for farmers across Ireland and Europe, and he said he was pleased with the Commission's proposals, particularly the recognition that farmers being impacted by GAEC 2 should be eligible for payments based on the income foregone due to this regulation potentially. He also said that two further elements of the proposals, the reduction in on-farm inspections and increased supports for the next generation of farmers as well, were very welcome as well. And he said that it was clear that the protests by Irish and European farmers last year are beginning to pay off. And it looks like there is moves, albeit very slowly, but we're seeing some move towards CAP simplification. It will be very interesting to see what that will look like for GAEC 2 as well.
Yeah, well, we did have the Commissioner here earlier this year in Ireland, and he did promise he was listening to farmers, Irish farmers, farmers across Europe. So, as you say, Aisling, watch this space. Now, we were talking about beef prices at the start of this podcast, but this week we also covered the latest financial results from Carbury Group, the milk processor and dairy business, and we learned that it paid its second highest annual average milk price last year. So, what else did the results reveal, Aisling?
Yeah, so Carbery recorded what it described as a strong financial performance for 2024. Francis, operating profit was up by approximately 20%. Group turnover also increased for the year ended on December 31st. Revenue increased by 8% to €668 million, while group EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization, increased by 12% to €52 million. Now, Carbery reported an operating profit of €24.8 million, which is an increase of €5.2 million or 20% from that 2023 figure. Now, the group said that its performance allowed it to set aside some €8.6 million for its stability fund, which it said would support milk price if needed in the future. And as you did mention there, Francis, Carbery said that it paid its second highest annual average milk price on record last last year. And it also said that some €4.7 million was paid out to farmers for sustainability actions taken under its future-proof sustainability bonus program. And some 93% of Carbery's milk pool comes from suppliers who participate in that program. Now, Carbery, like all of the other co-ops and processors around the country, did, of course, point to the very difficult weather conditions at the start of last year, which made it very, very difficult for all farmers, including dairy farmers out there. But they said that milk supply did recover over the course of the year, with suppliers producing 574 million litres of milk in 2024. Now, Carbery noted that flexibility in producing both mozzarella and cheddar has become crucial in managing its cheese business and also maximising returns as well. And we also caught up with the chief executive of Carbury Group, Jason Hawkins, Frances, this week, and he described 2024 as a year in which all things came together for the business. And he said that dairy markets had improved in 2024, and obviously that supported milk price, with boosts in revenue as well. But he said on the other side of the house, from a nutrition perspective, the company was very focused on whey protein, both from a pricing perspective as well as a demand perspective. They said the protein demand is very strong. So the nutrition side of the business performed well as a result. And across its taste platform, which is operations in the US, Brazil, Asia, and in Europe as well, all of those businesses performed well too. Now, Carbery's milk pool is based in West Cork, and there is obviously a considerable focus on water quality in all areas of the country. And West Cork is no different. And Jason Hawkins noted that around 65% of Carbery's farmers are in derogation. So it is an issue for them there. But he did note that, a lot of good work has been going on the ground by Carbery's farmers. And he said that is, I suppose, coming through now in the Environmental Protection Agency data that we're seeing. And, there is improvements in water quality as well. So, he said that both Carbery and the industry in general have been at this for years, and he feels that the industry has really upped its game in 2024 as well. And look, I suppose finally on the issue of milk price, we did see that Carbery did actually reduce its price to suppliers for the first time this year, last week for March milk supplies. But Jason Hawkins said that the outlook for 2025 at the moment would be an improvement on 2024. So as you said it just a few minutes ago, watch this space, Frances. But definitely a very strong year for Carbery against, I suppose, what was a tricky start to 2024 for everybody involved in farming.
Yeah, we've seen this trend really in the last couple of weeks because we've been following the financial results of a lot of the co-ops, and they've all been quite positive towards the tail end of last year. But of course, their outlooks now are shaped with whatever's going to happen with US tariffs, and we still don't know anything else on that front.
Yeah, and it seems that negotiations are going on all the time between Europe and obviously all the other players as well, and the US administration. Frances, that 90-day pause is there at the moment, that safety net, maybe some people would look at it, but we did have that baseline 10% tariff, which is going to impact everything that's coming out of this country and across Europe as well, and from other areas around the globe. So I think, it's very tentative at the moment what Donald Trump and his administration will do next. But as we've often said here on the Farming Week, who knows from minute to minute, not a mind hour to hour, day to day or week to week.
Yeah, it is a bit like the weather, and I actually was going to just mention that again because we're hoping it's going to be a little more settled this week. But we're also very mindful that many landowners are still dealing with the fallout from storms Dara and Owen earlier this year, particularly the impact these had on forestry. And we've got a bit of a clearer picture now, Aisling, of just how damaging that was.
Yeah, so we had an initial assessment of the wind blow or the damage caused by storms Dara and Eowyn completed in February, and it was a figure of in or around 24,000 hectares of forestry had been damaged. But this week we got an announcement from the department that there was a completed assessment based on satellite imagery, and that is now confirmed that some 26,050 hectares of forestry had been impacted by those storms. a really huge amount. So it means that there was an additional 2,500 hectares added on to that initial assessment from February. And Minister of State at the Department of Agriculture, who has responsibility for forestry, Michael Healy-Rae, said that the clear skies, those blue skies in recent weeks were very fortunate in many ways. We had 99s here on Earth, but the satellites were able to get a really clear picture of what was going on, with no cloud cover across the country. So we have that high resolution satellite imagery, and the data that has been carried or has been collected has been mapped, and foresters are going to be able to look at that data and have a look at how it might impact on their forestry as well through the department's mapping system. So that is something that you can look up if it will affect you. But the minister said that of that total of just over 26,000 hectares, 14,500 hectares are in the Cuilcha estate, and some 11,500 are private forest areas which have suffered wind damage. So he said that it's clear that the first task now for forestry owners, affected by the storms is the safe clearance of sites. And he said the majority of owners can use their existing clear fell and thinning licenses to do that work. And for those that don't have a license, Minister Healy-Rae said it's advisable that they apply for it now and mark it as storm damage. And he said that all such applications received will be prioritised and will be issued as quickly as possible. And he said once you have the licence, you will still have time then to harvest, and you shouldn't rush into any decision, but make a step-by-step plan to minimise risk, but to maximise the salvage value of the trees that are out there. And he said that, there could be a bit more time for, retaining value in some trees, particularly where the tree is still connected to the roots as well. Now, the department said that the Windblow Task Force, which was established by the minister, will develop a comprehensive action plan. And we also are expecting a workshop in early May to inform the next steps as well. And look, I suppose just before we leave forestry, Frances, Minister Michael Healy-Rae took to social media this week to make somewhat of an impassioned plea to farmers to consider planting forestry on their land. And as we well know, there's been huge issues in the sector in recent years, which has dented confidence, which is possibly an understatement, in the forestry sector. Now, Minister Healy-Rae in this video said that he would never ask somebody to do something he wouldn't do himself. So he said that in his early 20s, he had planted forestry and he's enjoyed watching it grow and develop over the years. And he said he recently bought another forestry parcel, and he said he believed in growing trees and that it's a good use of land. And here is some more of what he had to say.
Nearly 20,000 farmers have gone down what I would call the forestry route in some shape or fashion. It is sensible, it is worthwhile, the money you accrue is tax-free. I believe in it, I'd ask you to believe in it too.
So there you go, Frances. Minister Michael Healy-Rae there making that impassioned plea to inspire confidence in the forestry sector. I'm not sure, what do you think?
I always like to see a minister walking through a forest any day. So yeah, that was a nice piece of social media that he did. And but yeah, I think I get what you're saying about the fact that from what we've been hearing, there's a lot of there is a lot of anxiety about what investments in forests are going to actually deliver down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just getting that confidence back in the sector that has been so badly damaged in recent years, and inspiring farmers to go out there and to maybe plant some of their land or all of their land, as the minister said, under the options that are there under the forestry programme. But yeah, it'll remain to be seen if that social media post will go any way towards achieving that.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, Aisling, but I'm always really impressed by some of the amazing flower displays and attention to detail that you see when you're driving through some of the towns and villages around the country when we're out covering stories. And in many cases, this is due to the hard work of Tidy Towns groups. And this week, they got some very good news.
Yeah, they absolutely did, because they're set to make significant savings on their insurance costs because of a new partnership between local authorities and their mutual insurance company, which is called the Irish Public Bodies Insurance, IPB Insurance. So that partnership will now remove the cost of insurance for local authority-backed Tidy Towns groups across the country. And there are over 1,000 active Tidy Towns groups in Ireland. And the cost of insurance for those groups, I suppose for many small small community groups, you know, it's a huge, significant drain on their limited financial resources every year. So this, of course, is going to result in substantial savings for the groups and will enable them to focus their energy and resources on community activities, which is where they should be focused in the first instance. And I know from a personal level, my grandmother was hugely involved years and years down here in Kerry with Tidy Towns. My uncle is involved, and so many people give so much time selflessly all throughout the year. It's not just for the judging in the summer months, but this is a year-round endeavour and vocation that Tidy Towns groups do right up and down the length and breadth of the country. And they are the unsung heroes of our towns or villages, you know, and they make places look absolutely splendid, as you said. And, you know, not just for the people who live here, but the people who visit as well. And people will often comment, you know, how attractive places look. And that is the hard work and the evenings that are sacrificed by many of these volunteers right around the country. So it's a really good initiative now to see the insurance costs being lifted from them and leave them concentrate, as you said, on those flower beds, those hanging baskets, and making our towns and villages look beautiful.
Yeah, as you say, there really are the unsung heroes, really, of many rural villages. And one of the aspects which I think is really enjoyable is the intense competition between some villages. I know a couple that I'm not going to name names at this stage, but it really does come down to the line whenever they're wanting to get their hands on the prizes.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, even I suppose for the locations that maybe wouldn't be the top prize winners, there's great pride as well in the points that are awarded, and people like to see their points increasing and maybe getting gold, silver, bronze medals, you know, from the judges as well. So yeah, there's huge pride that is taken, but as you said, very healthy competition at the top levels as well. And I know here in Kerry, we've scooped that top award a couple of times, and it is a source of great pride and bragging rights for the locations that get it. But yeah, no, definitely a huge step forward, and well done to everybody involved in that initiative. I think it's really positive this week.
And one other lovely story that we've covered this week is the winner of the Agriland Merlot competition from the 2024 National Ploughing Championships. And that is the Guinan family in County Offaly, who won the use of a telehandler for a year or 1,000 hours, whatever comes first. So we hope that they really enjoy putting that Merlot to good use. So that's it this week for now from Aisling, Breifne and myself. Thank you for listening. Please don't forget to rate, review and follow The Farming Week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. We hope you have a really good week ahead.